starts with one thing. I don't know what. Alright, we're doing another tier list again. This time we're doing Linkin Park. Alright, now Linkin Park is probably one of my biggest, one of my first bands, like one of my first ever bands overall I've ever discovered. Practically a childhood band for me at this point. Since like, what, 2007 at least? And I think they were one of the bands that were a lot more seriously, like, sort of ambitious, and I guess I'd say, in the scene, considering the scene that they were in. Not to say others in their field weren't. And I'd say we're kinda underrated in what their discography actually holds up for them. I think the best parts of their discography are very underappreciated. There were some good gems hidden in this band, like, that people didn't realize until later, until Chester died. And currently living in a time where we can safely say we like Linkin Park now without getting banished to the gallows or getting told to off yourself just from the name slipping out of your mouth. I think it's the best time to do one, especially with Meteora turning 20 this year. Or has turned 20 this year. Alright, let's go.
I tried so hard and got so far, but in the end, it doesn't even matter. I had to.
Hybrid Theory, let's go. The 2000 landmark debut, Hybrid Theory. What else can I really say about this motherfucker that hasn't been said already? I'm not gonna lie. This mostly hits as pure, unadulterated nostalgia for me, as I grew up with this and I haven't met anybody who hasn't grown up with this album to some capacity, or at least stumbled across one of these songs in some 2000s Dragon Ball Z AMV. They came out the gate swinging with this sound that immediately resonated with everybody. Like this batch of rap rock and nu metal that set them apart from their nu metal peers, especially, even in the last moments of the genre's relevancy. I mean, the electric and industrial touches, the hip-hop influence, and the Chester and Mike duo was just the main recipe for, well, a Hybrid Theory. And 10 million copies sold. Even when the phase of nu metal was just in its like waning days, this album came out of nowhere and just gave it a bit more life. Like these poppy earwormy hooks mixed in with these heavy guitars and eclectic drum work was just all a big factor of Linkin Park's success and what made this album so great. I mean, it's obviously a classic, but it's personally not my favorite album. I'll be real. Spoiler alert. Songs like Points of Authority and With You, and even the classics like In the End and Crawlin' and One Step Closer. Oh, well, maybe not Crawlin', that kind of soured on me for the years. And though I still kind of call certain parts of this dated, obviously, like Mike's rapping flows and the songwriting and the production, and I still just like Crawling for that reason. I mean, at least it didn't age as badly as most of the cornier MTV nu metal from that era. Like this. Still saved by catchy hooks and pure energy, which makes it a very definitive album of the 2000s. Honestly, feeling like, I'm gonna be real, I'm feeling like an A. Yeah, I'm gonna give it an A. What can I say? It's Hybrid Theory. No hard feelings. It's just not S for me. I know it, I mean, well, okay, so basically Reanimation. I mean, I know this is a remix album and all, and I don't tend to treat remix albums that well. But Reanimation, I feel like, has enough different shit going on in it that I feel like it deserves some sort of, like, mention. This is more of Mike Shinoda steering the boat this time, as he's the one who reimagined all these songs with a different hip-hop flair. And I think it's credible. I was expecting much worse going into this, or at least returning to it, because, but not really. There's even a Jonathan Davis feature on this, apparently, on the remix of One Step Closer, which to a comment on Rate Your Music that I thought was something. Like, the most OG of the OG of nu metal, featuring on the remix of one of the last big nu metal bands. Most nu metal sounding song as the book ending to the genre. In my opinion, I mean, hey, it's pretty cool. Check out Crawling Remix. In my opinion, it's better than the OG. So, I guess C, if I were to put this anywhere. I don't know. I feel like this should even be in the list. I think C. It has some cool remixes in there. It has cool, like, reimaginations. It has cool ideas. And I like the whole, like, I like the titles being altered. So, yeah, C sounds, I guess, right.
I can't stand the way I did before. Don't turn your back on me. I won't be ignored. Time won't change this damage.
Aw, shit. Here we go. Now we're talking. Meteora. Let's go. Follow-up to Hybrid Theory that seemed pretty much impossible considering how big that album was. Like, how do you follow up your breakup debut? make a part 2, obviously, but a part 2 that's more fully realized, diverse, and more intriguing in my opinion. I think this is where everything great about Hybrid Theory has been refined here. The riffs hit harder, the hooks have more punch to them, and they experiment with more other sounds and styles and genres that all work for me, personally. Especially Breaking the Habit and Faint, which take cues from post-hardcore and drum and bass, and which also are my 2 favorite songs in here, with the former being my all-time favorite Linkin Park song by a country mile. Chester sounds good as well, and Mike is still Mike, but at least he gets more time to shine on his own song, Nobody's Listening, which I find the Japanese flute sample pretty unique. I never really cared that much for Mike's rapping, until I checked out his side project, Fort Minor, and their only album, which has this song on it, is where I finally started to get his rapping style and realize he actually kind of got bars. It's just Linkin Park holds him back, so you really never get to hear it. But I might say here has like the best balance of Chester and Mike's duo-isms. It's just a more diverse Hybrid Theory, really. And apparently Session was nominated for a Grammy for Best Rock Instrumental somehow, so okay. It still fucked the Grammys. This album holds up, in my opinion, better than Hybrid Theory, and definitely was the last hoorah for this kind of hard rock, which was already like damn near 6 feet under at the time in 2003. My personal favorite Linkin Park album so far, like of all time. I still return to this all the time. Proud to say it's an S. Fucking S. Meteora over Hybrid Theory all day. I don't care. Eat my dick. Well, if y'all want me to talk about that Jay-Z mashup album that happened in the middle of all this, which I know you don't, so I'm just gonna move on to Minutes to Midnight. So, Minutes to Midnight, what do I say? Because honestly, this whole situation shares kind of a same resemblance to The Strokes, coming into the game with an already groundbreaking debut that was practically impossible to follow up no matter what you do. Then later making said follow-up album in 2003 that was basically a rehash of the debut, but is always heavily debated on by the fan base as the better album, and then disappearing after their respective genre waves fizzled out, and then which leaves them to start over. And then with The Strokes releasing First Impressions of Earth way later to like a very mixed reception at best. That's pretty much what happens here with Linkin Park on this album, which I didn't get a lot from this as I'd hope. Obviously not because it's not new metal. I'll make another Hybrid Theory. Shut the fuck up. I hate that crowd that only wants to do a Hybrid Theory part 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 fucking trillion Hybrid Theories. That's not how an artist grows. All right. But sometimes that's the downside of coming into the game with such an already groundbreaking record. So it's not because of me wanting Meteora 2 or Hybrid Theory 3 or anything like that. It's just because it's very underwhelming. I don't know what else they could have done. Like, they already have their 2 best albums sitting here in this column right here collecting nostalgia points. And you really can't make a Hybrid Theory part 3 because like the genre is like 6 feet under mine now because it's fucking 2007, alright? It's fucking 2007. Get it through your head. It's 2007, not 2001, not 2000, not 2003. It's 2007. New metal is no more, alright? Post-grunge is the wave. Like, no new metal, post-grunge, pop punk, that's the only rock you're hearing right now, alright? I mean, it's 2007, you really can't expect anybody to make a fucking Hybrid Theory part 3, because then it would just feel weird. Then it would just feel like they haven't evolved. So instead they went with a more accessible sort of alt rock and kind of radio rock that kind of sounds empty and lifeless, sacrificing the band's strengths in order to renew themselves in a changing rock and pop climate, which sucks because I wanted to like this. Like, this record is so often shitted on more than any other Linkin Park album to this point. Alright, to this point. And I thought I might as well give it a try anyway, because I mean, hell, I remember getting tired of hearing what I've done everywhere at the time. And it's just nothing. Like, Mike's rap contributions feel overly redundant and annoying, and his flows and lyrics are very forgettable whenever he does have a verse, because he had to cut down his own rapping. Compared to the last album, he had to cut down his rapping a lot in order to make this a little more accessible, I guess. Like, I was more hoping we get more of that Fort Minor like style rapping out of Mike in this album, but apparently not, because sometimes he's over here singing for like 3 minutes, which I couldn't give a fuck less. If I were to be really harsh, I would say sellout kind of way, but like, I say it's just a watering down of their sound, which is pretty much the same thing. But the production just doesn't do any favors either, as its more stripped back tone gives a lot of empty space, and the songwriting suffered too. But even with as much shit I'm giving it, This album is nowhere near a train wreck as I seem to be implying. But I guess it does have, cause I'd say it does have its moments, like Leave Out All the Rest, that kind of grew on me. Given Up, definitely. What I've Done, I guess, even with how annoying it is and how overplayed it is, What I've Done is one of the better tracks on here. But other than that, the lows just drag it down, like, immensely. So I'd say, like, but it's not a disaster, though. Unfortunately, I'm gonna have to go with a D. I'm gonna have to go with a D.
Funny robot balls!
Thousand Suns. Oh shit. Now this okay. Okay, so this warrants a discussion. I don't know how to start with this thing, really. This is probably the hardest album I had to talk about out of all these albums. This might be the out of all these albums, I think this might be the hardest one to be able to talk about. Like, I begin saying that this is undoubtedly Linkin Park's most ambitious album to date. Like, it's certainly off the wall for someone like them. Definitely their most experimental album to date. Yes, like, this is weird as hell as an overall listen, with its theme and concept mainly on nuclear warfare, which totally hasn't been done before and better. and much weirder song directions and interludes. For the love of God, the damn interludes. And of course would immediately split the fans, who at this point should know they are probably most likely not getting another Hybrid Theory ever again, and should stop expecting one. And I think the crazy amount of hate for this, looking back, was very unwarranted. From the already impatient motherfuckers who don't like change no matter how they deliver it, to the critics who just hop on the bandwagon because they never liked Linkin Park in the first place. I mean, I had to see it for myself, of course, and honestly, I don't hate this. Like, it features so many things that should make me hate this, but no. Especially from taking in the concept and letting it breathe for a minute, and actually diving into it, like giving the album its full experience that it warrants. I kind of see what they were doing this time, unlike Minutes to Midnight, but there's still several glaring issues that stop it from really being as great as it should. Like, there's some tracks on here where they were cooking with way too much grease, or tracks where they're just missing some potential punch. More singing Mike and less screaming Chester isn't bad at all. But I think some songs really needed the opposite. I feel like the sequencing could have been much more improved, like the interludes in between songs could have been a better choice. On to what I like about this album. The Catalyst is a monster of a track, and the lead single. Iridescent is cool too, even though it's associated with Transformers. And Waiting for the End is undoubtedly one of Linkin Park's best songs they've ever made. Like, that is probably the best song on this album, in my opinion. And Resident Kings is cool on a good day, I guess, because everything about that song should not work, and I feel like I should hate it a lot more. But I still don't know if I love it or hate it or not. But other than that, I don't know, really. Because then again, The Messenger and Blackout is just ass. Like, some of the experiments just go overboard, or just don't do enough, in my opinion. But yeah, that's all I can say, is I appreciate the ambition, but I have so many thoughts on how this could have been better, which probably warrants a separate video. But it's not ass. It's really not ass. Like, and there's even recently been a bit of a reevaluation of this album as a whole. It's coming from a new audience, I'd say. And I'd say I'm also part of that boat. But it's not ass. Just very inconsistent. So I'd say, fuck, I want to put this in B. Oh man, I want to put this in B. It's so close to a B. I might put this in a B. I might, but it's C. You know what? Fuck it. B. I'm in a good mood today. I'm gonna put it in B. Alright, now that I'm done rambling on about that album, now moving on to Living Things. Alright, starting off, this definitely isn't even close to the ambition level of 1,000 Suns. Because of how much shit it got, probably. But that really shouldn't be the issue. If it wasn't so boring. You would have thought them offering a less bloated track list would make this easier. But I'm gonna say that now, no bullshit, this is kind of boring. God, 2012 is really not aging well, sound-wise, it's sad. Like, the even more indulgent electronic rock approach on here sounds so uninspired and uninteresting. especially coming off their last album. And it's just mainly just a snooze fest to get through as an album, as a listen. Well, at least there's no more interludes. I barely even remember this album's existence except Burn It Down, and I kind of wish more of it sounded like that. Not gonna lie. I mean, I'll take Castle Glass and In My Remains and maybe Roads Untraveled, and I'm out. And Burn It Down for nostalgia purposes. Duh. Maybe I'm going a little too hard. It does offer some more catchy hooks, and just overall making this a more mellow album than the past one. Staying with the times and the sounds at the time, you know, like more electronic, even less guitar, even more electronic rock leaning than the last, which was already electronic enough, which is kind of saying something. Way less, just less experimentation placed in for more undercooked poppy hooks. But I mean, it's catchy enough to where I think it warrants like a C. The Hunting Party. Alright, we're finally done with the electronic rock era. Now they brung back guitars. Now they finally brung back guitars to the forefront to make this their most heaviest album since Hybrid Theory, maybe, possibly. But it's a little complicated. But it's a little complicated than that. Yes, returning to the rap metal roots they burst onto the scene with was a good idea, in theory. But how the hell is this going to translate in 2014? They still kind of gave the fans what they wanted all these years, but not quite. Like, it still sounds different somewhat. The features on this definitely surprised and confused me, but they somehow elevated each song on here, except Tom Morello in my opinion. And this album sonically should be up my alley, but God, I wish it was, because I don't really get much out of this either, as much as I wanted to, but I'd say it's also an improvement over Living Thing. I'll be real, everyone sounded on their A game here. But I don't know why I don't love this, though. Like, I remember being hyped for this when Guilty All the Same came out. And I liked the album at first. It just grew off of me over time. Like, it's probably what I think about most fan-pleaser albums. It's no risk. It's no real reward if the fans don't like it either. Pauses the artistic growth because they stop believing in it. Because I don't think of it that way in Linkin Park's case. But, like, because I don't think of it that way in Linkin Park's case. But, you know, I don't care. I don't fucking know. I'm going nowhere with this. Fuck it. C. God damn it. I don't know.
Who cares if one more light goes out in the sky of a million stars? It flickers.
Oh boy, how do I do this? Alright, so it's like 3 years after Hunting Party, the band drops the lead single, Heavy, which already indicated to us that we aren't getting anything heavier than the Hunting Party, especially after it kind of underperformed. I was prepared though, because I thought it was okay though very generic. And then the album drops, and oh my god, I've never seen a reception so harsh off rip for a Linkin Park release. So like, I checked this out, like, fucking immediately. Like, I had to check this shit out, like, to see what the fuck happened here. And I hated it. I hated it as much as everyone else did, first listen. I'm gonna be real, I hated the fuck out of it. Like, they went from the immense retread of Hunting Party to some of the most incredibly generic and bland sounding modern pop that you hear on the top 40 on the charts at the time. It didn't necessarily feel like Linkin Park. It just felt like any other artist could have done this, and it wouldn't have made no difference. But I'ma say, if I didn't give this another listen, this probably would have been the easiest F ever. I'd say some of their best lyricism and songwriting is on this album, but the production doesn't do it any sort of justice at all. I didn't understand why this felt so off, but it started to make a little more sense when Chester unfortunately passed away only months later. And in the way that he did, it really did change the album. It really did change the album for me a bit. I mean, after Chester died, I mean, I didn't really want to listen to this ever again, because I just couldn't. And because his death definitely gave the lyrics more deeper meaning and perspective than at first. Like, especially One More Light, which I think is the best song on this album, undisputed. But then again, you could probably say that to every Chester song on this, but that one necessarily, I'd say. It's just unfortunate the lyricism is trapped in such mediocre production. But maybe that's just me being very against this era of pop. And even though it's only been like 6 years, like the pitch shifting, the chipmunk vocals, and the occasionally lifeless trap percussion just reeks of 2017. at its most generic. Though, I'll be honest, I still return to Good Goodbye with Pusha T and Skepta, and One More Light, but that's really, honestly, it. I just don't know. It just feels weird, you know. D. I'm gonna just go with a D for now. Who knows? It might change in the future, but this is what I have for now. I just have it at a D. It's just the easiest to go with. But yeah, that's my Linkin Park tier list. Oh, man, I've really went on for long. It's weird. I mean, you know, that's right. Maybe these might change in the future, but like, I just don't know. One More Light. It's just I want to give it the benefit of the doubt, but it's just I don't know. One More Light is just complicated for me. I feel like I should hate it more considering the circumstances, but it's just I just can't. Because I feel like there's something there. Alright, go in the comments and tell me how wrong I am and how Hybrid Theory is better than Meteora, even though it isn't. So, yeah. And yeah, keep on rolling, baby. Oh, wait, wrong band.